All right, Ethan and Grunge Bible, I have some good news and some bad news. I'm going to give you the good news first. Are you ready for it?
Lay it on me, Chris.
The good news is that the Grunge Bible podcast is now officially over 1 year old, and to celebrate all month long, we've been running a contest. That's some pretty good news, I would say, right?
Heck yeah, it is. Really good stuff. Free stuff?
Free stuff.
Nice.
Love that. The bad news is time is running out to join. I don't know who's out there who's been slacking off, but this episode is being released on March 28th. So if you haven't entered yet, you have until the end of the day on March 31st to enter our 1 year anniversary Patreon giveaway, brought to you by Chris Cornell, the notable photographer who has photographed damn near everybody on this planet except us. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't entered yet and you still need a refresher, you've been slacking off a little bit, we have partnered with photographer Chris Cornell to run a giveaway to thank all of the patrons for their support over this last year of podcasting. In case you don't know, we have 3 tiers on Patreon, and one person from each tier will be selected to win a prize, a print from Chris Cornell. So the $2 tier, we are giving away a print of Chris Cornell. For the $5 tier, a print of Pearl Jam, and for the $10 tier, a bigger print of Nirvana and an item of your choosing from the Grunge Bible store. So I noticed my tenor is a little bit different this week as opposed to last week because we're running out of time, and the time for lollygagging and things of that nature has passed. So we gotta join up, and you gotta get in on the fun because clock's ticking.
If you are out there and you've been on the fence about joining and supporting the Grunge Bible podcast, now is the perfect opportunity, because not only do you get to support us, but you get rewarded almost instantly by being entered to win a print. So if you've been slacking and you've been looking for a reason to join, there's no better time than now, because you could win some free shit. And then there's more exclusive content on the Patreon that we're going to be releasing. And of course, you get to support us, and that should be all you need, right?
That really should be all you need.
Yeah, a shitty cup of coffee, $5. I mean, that's find that in your couch, and $10 is just not buying that, double cheeseburger from
like not even 2 packs of cigarettes.
Yeah. Oh no, cigarettes are expensive these days.
Yeah, I know, the price of the brick going up.
Cigarettes are expensive. Yeah, basically the top tier is the pack of cigarettes.
Exactly. That's pretty much, we got to rename that. But basically, that's what's at stake, everybody. So if you've joined, thank you very much. If you haven't joined, I suggest you get to it because time's running out. What do you say we get in the episode, Ethan?
Time for the next episode of the Grunge Bible podcast.
Coming up.
All right, we are back. Chris, it's actually Friday morning. I was going to say it's Friday afternoon, but it's Friday morning. We have our coffee, and we are recording an episode. This is the first time we're able to record later in the week and have it come out on Monday, so I think we're feeling pretty good. How are the energy levels? How are you feeling today, Chris, at the end of the week?
Oh, man, I have had a roller coaster of a week. Not in any sort of high stakes way. I've just been either annoyed by things or made happier by things, just up and down the whole week. Frankly, man, I'm just ready for this shit to be over. Turn the page, get to a new week.
Really?
Yeah, well, man, I've had my fill.
Dang, yeah, it sounds like you have had a busy week. Sometimes you have those weeks where they just kind of drag on. But I think I texted earlier and I was like, where the hell has March went? It's March 25th right now. This episode's coming out on the 28th, I think.
Yep.
So that's like,
where'd it go?
Where did it go? Shoot, March 28th is our half birthday, as you mentioned in the last episode.
You're right. Happy half birthday, man. This is coming out. This is a great birthday present.
So that means that on Tuesday, you're going to be closer you've ever been to 26, correct?
Yeah, and you're going to be closer than you've ever been to
28.
28.
Which is weird. I feel like 20, I'm official. Yeah.
Who knows where the time goes? Yeah, man, it's kind of strange. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've had, I think maybe opposite to you, I've had a pretty good week.
Makes one of us.
Mainly because, I competed last week. I competed well. And then I compete tomorrow. So I took this week off. I worked twice this week and did a lot of other stuff throughout, but it wasn't like a too strenuous of a work week. And it's been good because my spirits have been high. So It's been pretty solid. I just can't believe that March is like gone. I don't know why. I mean, time moves the same as it always does. So, but yeah, I'm doing pretty good, and I enjoy a morning podcast. We'll be able to knock this out, and then we'll be able to have, we get today, and then we get tomorrow too.
Exactly. This is the best of all
as
worlds,
we like to
if you
say
think about
it. So this episode, we are going to kind of go through and talk about some of the grunge supergroups and some of the bands that we love that formed from other bands, and honestly, just the craziness that is Seattle music scene in the 90s. I mean, pretty much you could justify every band being a supergroup, and I think we'll get into that because pretty much it's all kind of exploded from the early few bands and Mother Love Bone and whatnot. So we're going to get into that, but before, I think we should thank our patrons. Because without them, we would be nothing. And as you guys heard, we have a awesome giveaway from anybody that is joined into the Patreon. And I believe we have 43 members. Is that right, Chris? 43
we have
people.
43 members now, yes.
So this thing is a success. We've grown a few people. That's incredible. We're really excited about that. And of course, you guys already know, if you haven't already, join, support, because why not? You guys like Grunge Bible. You have to if you're listening.
And for the next couple of days, you can still win some free shit. So, I mean, that's double the incentive.
Yeah,
but
make it count.
Yeah, and I think, Ethan, we're setting a PR this week for the number of times that we get to ring the bell. There are 5 new individuals that we can ring the bell for. And like you said, without the patrons, we'd be nothing. I mean, with them, we're really not too much either, but we're something, and that's what's important. And that something is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. So this week, we have 3 new members of the $5 tier who I would like to thank. They're getting in on their chance to win that Pearl Jam print from Chris Cafaro. And those individuals that we would like to thank today are Debbie Sutton, Lauren Jordan, and Kaylee Miller. So to Debbie, Lauren, and Kaylee, thank you very much. Additionally, we have 2 new members of the $10 tier that we get to ring the bell this week and hopefully every single week from here on out. And today we would like to thank Chris. It's not me, it's KRIS. I didn't hop in the contest here a little bit, but we'd like to thank Chris. And we would also like to thank an individual that has been chosen to be recognized by the name Black Hole Sean. So Black Hole Sean has arrived, and hopefully he's going to wash away the rain because there's been a lot of that lately. So to Chris and to Black Hole Sean, thank you so much. And those 2 individuals will join the following roster of top tier patrons that make the Grunge Bible world go round in one harmonious circle. And those individuals are Kara Kay, the Blue Owl, Victor Schaefer, Jade Mercado, Doug Endy, Wayne Staley, Release, Millie, Rachel Corning, Fuck Soup, Alexis Shannon, Jamie Lynn, What the Fuck's Up Denny's, our number 1 fan from Australia, Kayla Jean, Millie, Marianne, Sue, Sunny Mashburn, Shannon Gorgone, Lauren Irene, and Nikki Six. So to all of you out there, thank you very much. And we wouldn't be anything without you. We're not much with you, but here we are.
Here we are, dude. We man, yeah, that's awesome.
That's a lot. And I have to say, so as the person who reads this list, I find it very important to always be switching up the order that I read them in. Because, you got to spread the love around. I mean, maybe some people like being the line leader. Some people like bringing up the back. So, the last shall be first and the first shall be last kind of thing. I like to get some of that going on. Where
would you want to be said? Your name said?
Well, I would definitely go under a pseudonym. I don't know what I would go under, but I mean, I don't know. It'd be
you
cool
definitely would go under a pseudonym?
I think I would. Here's the thing, Ethan. Everybody who says they don't want to be first is lying.
I'd want to be leading.
I'd want to be leading the line.
I don't know. My initial reaction was I like the anticipation of like, when's my name going to be said?
That's true. Yeah. So you don't. You kind of build that up.
Even though you do know it's going to be said, but there's kind of like a nice thing, like
you don't know when.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Oh shit. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Exactly.
Side note: before we really get into the episode, I just want to say that I do this podcast and I'm using a gamer chair, and for some reason, the way the thing is set up, like I always get up and my back fucking hurts afterwards.
You're like a curled up eel or something.
I'm sure you feel this. I mean, maybe you feel the same way. But if you guys are out there and you guys got awesome podcast chairs, send them our way because
we
these
need
things
some
suck. These
There
things
are
suck.
microphones, man. This all sucks. This is a
I need new
shitty
micro-
infrastructure for a shitty podcast.
Yeah, if you're into lighting and you guys want to sponsor and be a part of Garage Bubble Podcast, send them some dope lights because these suck.
This is terrible.
These
We're having
are
a horrible
terrible.
time.
We want to up our YouTube game, but we can't because everything we have sucks,
Including our personalities. Those are shit too.
including our faces. They suck.
It's absolutely terrible. No
They
good,
say we
man.
have. Yeah, they say we have good face for radio. So
Yeah, we've got great podcast faces.
yeah.
I have
All
to
right,
say.
I just wanted to get that out. I thought it was
Yeah,
funny
no,
'cause
that's very, very important. So
I never
Ethan-
know because I want to like sit back, but then I'm way out of
Yeah,
frame.
you can't do that
So
exactly.
I'm always kind of hunched over like this.
Yeah, I need
a hard back chair. No, we need mics. We need
You need some support. We need the mic. We need the mic
the
set up.
mics.
I'll tell you, I had the shittiest chair in the world for several months, and around Christmas time, I upgraded to this bad boy back here, and it's been doing me proud. I feel nice and anchored in. It's not too high, not too low. There's a sufficient amount of support. I got armrests too, which is armrests are fucking. I mean, you need those. Those are important.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always in good framing, which is good.
I feel probably more locked in than you do. So
what are you gonna do? I guess get a new chair. I need that chair you got.
yeah,
Send me the link.
I sat in that chair a couple of weeks ago. You're right, man. It kind of sucks.
Just gets old after 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Grunge Bible Supergroups.
Supergroups. I have a disclaimer that I need to make.
Yeah, let's do it.
This episode is for everybody that hates us because if you hate us or if you're looking for a reason to hate us, this is the episode because we're just basically going to supply you with fodder for being able to call us posers because inevitably we're going to miss and we're going to skip a lot of people, and there's probably a lot of shit out there that we just plain don't know about. So I wasn't alive when any of this happened, and
and this is the subject that like when you look into it, so
how deep can
like
you go?
Seattle, like what is a supergroup, and because all these bands like played with each other and were friends, and I feel like it's one of those things where living through it and seeing people like collab and work together would be so much easier. You get the timelines right, like because it was all so similar and so closely knit.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that I said in the beginning, like I think sadly the fact that we lost and Andy Wood was a reason for a lot of these bands to even have a chance to become,
Yeah, there's definitely a large element of that for sure.
That kicked off the whole scene and stuff because people could, join.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, there was such a fraternal element of the music scene that was going on, and so much of it happened before I think outside forces came in and attempted to, one, label what was going on, and two, profit off of it. It just seemed like people just played music together. So there's these, were they side projects? Were they not? Were they just a bunch of people getting together playing music? I mean, what was it? And much like what my perception of grunge is, it ebbs and flows. I mean, obviously grunge, just Mudhoney, but I mean, in terms of supergroups, people collab, people, I mean, they were all their individual things, so you can't really label them as like, this was a grunge supergroup, this was a whatever supergroup. I mean, and it doesn't matter, man.
I mean, case in point, like, is Pearl Jam a supergroup?
What constitutes a supergroup?
We got like there's members of Soundgarden and Mother Love Boat, and then
and Green River.
Green River. Yeah, so like there's like 4 bands right there. So is Pearl Jam the greatest because they have the longest tenure? Like,
right.
Maybe
these questions are very, very difficult to answer, and here's the thing: we're not going to answer them.
No. So how would you describe a supergroup, Chris?
How I would describe a supergroup: one person from at least one person from one band and another person from another band walk into the same room and pick up some sort of musical instrument. Then boom, you got a supergroup. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Because I mean,
care,
almost all these. I mean, like every famous band.
Then it's all just one supergroup.
Well, it's not their first band. Like, there's very few people that it's their first band that they played in.
That's very rare because of the underground nature of this scene.
Yeah,
and people were collaborating. There were people in and out. I mean, there was a revolving door on atop the drum kit of Pearl Jam for forever.
Right,
I mean, and then same thing with the bassist and Soundgarden. I mean, there's just a lot of.
And really, like, I mean, Matt Cameron is the longest tenured drummer for Pearl Jam, and he's,
Yeah, and he was he was the fifth drummer, I think, and he didn't come to Pearl Jam until 1998. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely my barometer for what's a supergroup or what is kosher to talk about here today is much like my barometer for what I'm allowed to post or what I allow myself to post on the pages, which is I don't really think too much about it. If I dig it, it's cool, and I think one way I like to think about it too, like if you spend any amount of your time trying to figure out what to label something, you've already missed the point. You just gotta take it for what it is and enjoy it. But at least within this genre, this scene, there's certainly a few large groups that you have to talk about when you're talking about the supergroups.
Yep. Number one being Foo Fighters, right?
Oh, I was gonna ask you, do you consider the Foo Fighters to be a supergroup?
Well, it's interesting because they kind of are. I mean, Dave Grohl, obviously, it was his second band, and Dave Grohl went to be in like five significant
he's
bands.
Been in everything. He's been in absolutely everything.
The original members of the Foo Fighters, got Dave Grohl. Then you actually have two guys from Sunny Day Real Estate. I don't know if you knew that. And then Pat Smear. So, and then you have Taylor Hawkins, who is the drummer for Alanis Morissette. So that's at least four big bands.
In the fucking Germs.
The Germs, I know. Pat Smear's in the Germs. So you got four bands that are pretty really big, and I think that I'm sure that there's a definition for supergroup out there, and you have to have sold a certain amount of whatever to be.
Fuck that though. Who cares,
to be the next level. But Dave Grohl coming from Nirvana is pretty significant, or the other bands we're going to talk about, and they've already had projects that are super successful. So I don't know. I found that interesting, when I was thinking about it and looking at the members of Foo Fighters, because they're a band that kind of spawned off of another band ending, which is a lot of what happened in the early years of. The scene. So I don't know. It's not a super group. It's just the Foo Fighters at this point.
It's just the Foo Fighters. But you're totally right in the sense that I think most of these projects we're going to talk about today were spawned out of the end of one or two or sometimes even three bands. And obviously you could start at the beginning with Temple of the Dog coming as a tribute to Andrew Wood of Mother Love Bone. So as we know, or as we might not know, Chris Cornell and Andrew Wood were roommates for a time prior to his death, prior to Andrew's death, and Chris wanted to have an outlet to mourn the loss of his friend, so he recruited Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, who were in Mother Love Bone, and a young up and coming Mike McCready, as well as Soundgarden's drummer Matt Cameron and some surf bum from San Diego named Eddie Vedder. And they got together. I believe originally they were only going to cut a couple of songs, but then it came into the album, obviously. And it's strange too, because we retroactively refer to them, and rightfully so, as a supergroup. I mean, the amount of talent and success that is comprised in that band, or that band is comprised of, is massive. But at the time, Soundgarden had done Louder Than Love in '89, and this is Bad Motorfinger, pre-10. Basically, it was the explosion, I think, of 10 that got Temple of the Dog and Hunger Strike back into the charts. So, but for the sake of this conversation, they're certainly a supergroup. But Temple of the Dog in that album is one of those albums that when I listen to, I have that thought in my head, like, oh shoot, I should listen to this more often because I do enjoy it. But I just don't get around to it sometimes. It's really, really incredible, especially once I learned the story of Andrew Wood and the story of why the Temple of the Dog project came to be. It definitely added a lot more weight to a lot of those songs. Obviously, Say Hello to Heaven in and of itself is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about how we kind of forget and maybe overlook these albums. I know. No, not to get ahead, but same with Mad Seasons. I think the fact that they only had one album together dropped, it kind of makes their library smaller and easier to kind of look over. There's just 12 songs for each of them, or however 10 songs for Temple, and I'm not sure how many for Mad Season. But the albums are just smaller, so I think that it's just easier to miss them at times, but it is always fun to come back, because you feel like here we go again, I get to experience this one more time.
And some of these albums and some of these groups, I think I discovered them as a curiosity of sorts because I was a fan of a lot of the bands that they were a part of, and I still remember like when you put the wires together of who's in Mad Season, and that's Mike McCready and Barrett Martin from the Trees and Lane and Baker Saunders, who was in there as well, and just to kind of, since you brought it up to talk about Mad Season, they might be my favorite one, especially as of late, just having spent more time listening to their music, and I think the I don't know, it's just that project is super, super weighty to me because just to give a little bit of the background, if people don't know, so Mike McCready and Baker Saunders, who was the bassist, they actually had met in rehab, and they went to rehab in Minnesota, and they wanted to make some music together when they had gotten out, and they had achieved sobriety at that time, and they got Barrett Martin from the Trees to hop in the band, and I believe he was also a sober musician. I don't know that he had struggled with addiction. And I remember Mike had done a lot of press, I think on the 20th anniversary of this album, and he had said that he had really hoped that Lane Staley playing with 3 other musicians who were sober would help him to find a path to sobriety. And Mike had remarked that looking back, it seemed really naive of him to think that, which I think is undoubtedly true because of how powerful and complex addiction can be. But that whole album is just, it's just so sad to me because I mean, you have Lane who passed due to his addictions, and Baker Saunders also passed because of his addictions as well. And it's just, I mean, any single album or any single music group that produces something like River of Deceit is bound to be a little bit more melancholy, I think, than others. And another part too, I mean, still, I think it's been a month and a day at the time we're recording this since Mark Lanegan passed away, and he was featured on that record on Long Gone Day. And I just think there's a little anecdote for basically Lane and Mark went into the studio one day for an hour, and they just Lane wrote a line and then Mark wrote a line, and they finished Long Gone Day like that in like half an hour, and that was the song. And just, I mean, obviously Mark with what he struggled with and the fact that he's no longer here either. It's just, I think it's the same thing like Temple of the Dog. Your retroactive opinions or look at these bands changes how you view them. And certainly for me, having not discovered them until half of their lineup had passed away, it definitely adds a little bit of a different perspective for me. But I mean, Mad Season, I love the Above album so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has a lot of, I think Wake Up might be my favorite. It's just
that one too.
I mean, long, slow build. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what they're talking about in that, it's just what Lane was able to write about in that group, as he did throughout his entire career. But that album, there's just some heavy, heavy, heavy stuff on there, which is obviously knowing what we know and knowing what they knew then, because his struggles were public information by that point. It's just, it's so sad too that a lot of these groups, you and a lot of these musicians, their work wasn't exhausted before their lives were, which is something we spoke about when Mark Lanegan passed away. And I think Mad Season's a band like that. I think they had plans or they had aspirations to record a follow-up album to Above, and they never did because of the condition of some of the band members. And when they passed away, I mean, that pretty much put a lid on it. Yeah.
I really enjoy their album artwork on that one too. It's an iconic
it's a Lane piece.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the more iconic albums, I feel, from that era. Like people know it. People, that really like it. I've seen it tattooed on people.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, that one's super cool. And
probably gonna listen to that. Probably gonna listen to them a little bit more today. I was listening to that before we got on here, and I'll probably go back to it after.
Totally, and I put that in the same neighborhood as a lot of Alice's stuff, in the sense that I try to stay away from spending too much time consecutively listening to their music, because it just has this way of putting me in this a little bit of a darker mood. And they had released
Lane's voice is very like when he holds out notes, it's different than when like Eddie holds out notes, and how those things bring bring you to places.
Yeah. Well, even All Alone, there's virtually no lyrics to that. It's just we're all alone. And I've had a lot of experiences listening to that song. And it's just, it's a heavy one. And even they had in 2013, they released the deluxe version, and Mark Lanigan actually contributed some vocals to some tracks that were unfinished. And there's one called Black Book of Fear that Mark wrote on retroactively, and they released in 2013. And that's another one that I think one year it was my most listened to song on Spotify, which if that's any indication of how my year went, I guess it wasn't a great year. But it's just that group, all parts of it just seemed to be, for me, too heavy to spend tons of time listening to.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe it's a good thing that they have just the one album that we can, covet, I guess, and kind of go back whenever we're ready and have it be an experience each time. But
the time always comes around again. And it's sad too, because even the next band that I wanted to bring up is a little bit, I think it's one more standard deviation away from the genre of grunge, as we like to call it. But even still, looking back at this one, it's changed in the way that I look at a band like Audioslave now, knowing, that Chris Cornell's passed away too. And I know that the band had broken up before he had passed away. But I mean, that's another one. What about how one of the members or multiple members' lives ended, it just kind of changes the way you look at it. But I mean, Audioslave was such a fucking powerful group, and like you said at the beginning, this Rage one ends, Soundgarden ends, and then boom, you have Audioslave, which is.
And this one had the most momentum, obviously. I mean, they had, 4 or 5 albums at least?
But their first 3 one, that they released, but their first one in 2002, the Audioslave self-titled.
Unreal, the stuff that they have on that album. I mean, some people probably know, some people probably know Chris Cornell as Audioslave more than they know Soundgarden, honestly. Because
I've had a lot of conversations with people who are maybe about 10 years older than you and I. Yeah. And they were in high school, or they were in 7th grade or whatever when Audioslave dropped, and
it's kind of like
a catalyst for them.
It's kind of like, it's a little different because he's the main singer, but it's like Foo Fighters and Nirvana, like
exactly.
With Dave Grohl. Like, I didn't know that Dave Grohl I knew Dave Grohl from Nirvana. I'm messing up. I knew Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters before I knew that he was in Nirvana. Wait a minute, the drummer for Nirvana is the lead singer.
How does that work? But it's the same thing. There was a lot of people out there that probably they had heard Audioslave, and then boom, they get to explore these two incredible but entirely different bands.
We could do a whole episode on this album. Easy,
and I'm sure we will. I mean, just from the start with Coach Eyes, and then Show Me How to Live. I mean, this is just
Gasoline, dude.
This is just adrenaline pumper after adrenaline pumper, and
set it off.
Come on, with all Light My Way. The only one that's like a little slower is like I Am the Highway,
and that one's like one of their
big ballad. It's
and everybody knows that song. Yeah,
everybody knows that one. I mean, that first album was just unbelievable. I mean, and they didn't
an hour
really,
and 5 minutes of just bang.
Yeah, just badassery. And 3 years later, when they released Out of Exile, I mean, they made themselves such a tough act to follow with that first album, and Out of Exile is incredible too. I mean, with Be Yourself, Doesn't Remind Me. Man or Animal, The Curse, which is such a great ballad. I think a lot of people tend to overlook that one. But I mean, their entire discography was just super, super awesome. And in their last album that came out in 2006, they've got Revelations, and another favorite of mine, The Shape of Things to Come. And I don't know, this album is just, it's crazy that those two elements of Rage Against the Machine and Chris Cornell fit
so
together
well.
so well. I mean, I love Tom Morello. I love the rhythm section of Audioslave, and you have Wilk and Comerford going at it there on the drums, on the bass, and everything like that. And I just think
tattoo sleeve.
Oh my God, that could you imagine how much time you think that took?
I remember first seeing that and being like, "Is that a tattoo or is that a shirt?" And then just being like, "Oh my gosh!" Like.
Yeah, Brad Wilk. It's just like because there's the iconic opening. There's I think is the first live engagement they ever played on Letterman on top of the Radio City marquee.
Beautiful, yeah.
And Wilkes up there shirtless. And I remember watching that. I was like, holy shit! Like this guy's whole arm is tattooed. Like there's no skin showing. Yeah, that's not for me. But anybody that wants it, you go ahead. I mean, I like tattoos.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, oh my gosh. But it just goes. I mean, all those guys are players in that band. They're all memorable, and like I think that they did a great. That was a great supergroup.
Yeah, I mean that was just
because
great fucking rock music.
Yeah,
it really
was. I was gonna say because that's a great supergroup because not all supergroups really scratch our itch, and there's a few that
they certainly don't. And this is where we might end up picking some fights. So my one request that if you don't like this episode, don't hold back. Please let us know and just tear us apart and make fun of us in an email or in a comment or something because that it might be warranted. Better. Yeah, exactly. This negative energy only makes me stronger, man.
Yeah.
But so where should we start? Because there's two notable supergroups that I think we have to talk about. Both of which, neither of which really do it for me. But where do you want to start?
I think we. I mean, I don't know. There's neither of them are just. I think we should start with Queens. I think Queens probably have a little bit. I don't know. Are you more partial to the Queens or?
I don't know that I can answer that.
All right, yeah, I'll be quite frank. I really don't listen to Queens of the Stone Age, or the other one is going to be Velvet Revolver, and neither of them really do it for me, and I'm not quite sure why. I just think it's just rock music that I'd rather go other places for, and I don't know. Yes. I'm not jacked up about it, but yeah. What do you have to say? I know you have.
So I think we were talking about this before we came on here today, but I think if there's one group or musician or band, just musical entity that since we started this page 6 years and 1 month ago, people have incessantly told us to listen to and to check out, and they would tell us that, oh, you'll love it. It would be Queens of the Stone Age. And I have very intermittently checked out their music, and I just don't love it that much. I guess I like Rated R, their second album, but I think that's primarily because Mark Lanigan contributed to it.
Right.
I don't know, like Queens of the Stone Age, everyone goes nuts because Dave Grohl played in them for a little bit.
I love Dave. Yeah, I love Dave Grohl. You love Mark Lanigan.
That's my thing.
These are our favorite people, and
I'll just go listen to Mark Lanigan though. I won't listen to Queen. They don't scratch my itch, and I think the responsibility lies somewhere in the middle between myself and Queens of the Stone Age, in the sense that I probably haven't done my due diligence to listen to them honestly and openly, but also they haven't, for me at least, there's nothing that they've done that I've listened to that really grabs my attention and makes me want to go listen to their other several albums. So I don't know. I think eventually, no, I don't even know if eventually, because the problem too, Ethan, we run a page called Grunge Bible, right? But my musical interests far and away exceed and go outside of things that are related to grunge, and grunge makes up a small majority at this point in my life. It makes up a small minority, I guess, of what I choose to listen to. Like, I don't listen to that much grunge, so if I'm exploring different music, it's probably not going to be Queens of the Stone Age or Velvet Revolver. I'm just interested in different areas at this point, so I think it's just a casualty of that I don't listen to them, and I'm not really lining up at the door to go and listen to 2007's Era Vulgaris from Queens of the Stone Age. It's just it's not on my agenda. So why? What do you think? Have you listened to them? Like what's the temperature?
There's something I'm trying to put into words. There's something about like I love rock and roll. I love like punk. I love like the really edgy stuff. But then I also like when people slow it down and have like, but like Queens, I feel like they fit in this category that I do not like. And it's almost like this, it's like, it's almost like when sometimes I don't like the Black Keys, right?
Okay.
And sometimes I don't like the Queens of the Stone Age feel like when they probably, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's like a jazz infused rock and roll that I don't. And it's very drivey. And there's something like I don't love like sometimes Dave Grohl puts out stuff and I don't like it. It fits in that category. And I'm not sure how to explain it, but I feel like Queens of the Stone Age is that category for me.
No, that makes sense to me. I feel I respect the players. Sometimes the music's just not for me.
Yeah, and sometimes, and maybe it's also because because there's a bunch of maybe there was just too many big players involved. Like I wonder how that writing went, or you know, if they had to compromise and they kind of got like I don't know.
Yeah, and something else that I'm fully willing to accept as being true is maybe we just don't get it. You know, like maybe Grunge Bible just doesn't get Queens of the Stone Age, and it's completely on us. But like I said, I'm okay with that. I agree. Kind of, a lot of their music that I've listened to, at least, kind of seems like a band that is one thing attempting to be another thing
for all people.
They end up being nothing for nobody.
Exactly.
So I don't really know. I mean, we're climbing into the area here where we're talking directly out of our butts about this band,
now we're just
wandering. It's verging on slander and sacrilege here, but I don't know. I mean, maybe if anyone out there has a suggestion for a Queen song that you are willing to bet will get us into them, please send them our way because we need a life raft.
Or more importantly, if you're out there and you think similarly to us and you can put it in words better than we can, please write that up. Please write that up and we'll read that. We'll read why Queens of the Stone Age just doesn't do it for people. And I think you got like a bunch of like players that want to like do their own thing, but they all have to kind of like do the thing together.
Find a consensus.
Which may like kind of tamper some parts. And I think that's maybe where I don't know. Like I said, if you have one of those two things that Chris and I just said, please reach out to us.
Yes.
And now we'll shut up. Now we'll shut up. Now we'll shut up and do the same thing for Velvet Revolver.
Yeah, we're gonna do the exact same thing with Velvet Revolver. I don't know that I could possibly know less about a supergroup that I probably being half of Grunge Bible should know more about, but it's compounded by two things. Number one, it's a lot of Guns N' Roses.
Most importantly, it's a lot of Guns N' Roses.
I mean, you have Slash, Duff McKagan, Matt Sorum, and Dave Kushner alongside Scott Weiland. Now, I love Scott Weiland. I love STP. I love some of the solo stuff that Scott did, but it just seems like these people got together and they made safe music. Does that make sense? And I don't even know if that's necessarily a valid critique or something that I should be mad about, but like Fall to Pieces is their most popular song. That just sounds like I'm going to go into the studio and make something that's super safe and that people will digest very, very quickly. It's the simple carbohydrate of rock music.
Yep. And that's probably because the large part of the band is obviously Guns N' Roses.
Which that's the thing. I don't think I'll ever be unbiased because I don't like Guns N' Roses. Although I have to say that the most tolerable part of Guns N' Roses to me is Slash and who Slash is. So, but I mean, the deck is stacked. The deck's really just stacked. And they only released 2 albums, and I think it was like 04 and 07 they came out, and it was in a weird no man's land for me. I was too young then, and then by the time I was old enough and getting into this music, I would just go and listen to the Stone Temple Pilots, or I would go and listen to other safe rock music from the 70s or something. I don't need to go and listen to Velvet Revolver. I certainly don't need to go and listen to Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I know. I'm wondering if I had to pick who I would listen to first, because I feel like I'm almost, for some reason, maybe it's Josh Homme that I really don't want to listen to Queens of the Stone Age. Maybe it's just him that we just don't like either. He trumps everybody, whoever else is in the band. We just don't want to.
Like if he's in there, which makes sense. I didn't love. No,
we didn't want to air it out, but we hate Josh Homme.
Yeah, we don't like Josh Homme, which stinks too, because he was a touring member of the Trees. In towards the end of their time in the mid to late 90s. I don't think he played on the Dust album, which is a good thing because I do like that album. So hopefully that was a Josh Homme zone.
Speaking of Josh Homme and another one of Dave Grohl's bands, I think we should bring up Them Crooked Vultures, which is Josh Homme, Dave Grohl, and then John Paul Jones from from Led
The
Zeppelin.
Mighty Zeppelin.
Yeah, and
Led Zeppelin.
another band, like I said, this is when like Dave Grohl, like I feel like he did Queens of the Stone Age, them Crooked Vultures, and wasn't there another one? And they're just kind of all, they're all the same to me. And then
So
throw in.
here's the thing, though.
Them Crooked Vultures had what was their one song that I did? One of their songs was pretty good, but you can always get one.
Mighty Racer, No Chaser. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Hold on, let me look.
Well, this is the thing.
Is that their best one?
Yeah.
No, New Fang. New Fang is their one
New
that
Fang.
everybody knows. Yeah.
Yep, I got you.
But
And while we talk about this, I would like to say that Ethan, I think I can speak for you here. We try to keep the gloves off here. We try to give an unfiltered, unadulterated, honest perception. So I just have to say it. I didn't know who was in this band.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know.
I believe you, dude. That happens a lot, dude. I say there's bands that pop up and you're just like, holy shit! Like, yeah, I did not know. I don't blame you. I understand because it's like Dave Grohl's fourth band. I mean, like, he's doing. You think he's doing one with one group, and then all of a sudden he's got another group. So
yeah, and then the Foos musically are all over the place too. So I mean, there's so many places I can go to get my Grohl. I'm probably not going to go to them Crooked Vultures for my serving. So I'll go listen to something else. I mean, for me at least, there's plenty of Foo Fighters discography that I haven't taken an intentful listen to. So I'm going to go there before I go to them Crooked Vultures or the little bit of time that he was in the Queens. It's just where I stand on these things. But I don't know. It seems like the one ingredient that kind of turns us off is Josh Homme, I guess. I don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. To kind of step back into some other maybe super groups that played a little bit, maybe just features and stuff in the albums, but people, I think we need to mention like other basically side projects for people. Like we got Brad, who I know that you spent some time listening to Brad, correct?
I do like Brad. Yeah, Stone Gossard and the late Sean Smith, and they were also in Satchel together too. There's a lot of bands like this is why all of this is completely arbitrary. Like I have positive opinions of these bands, but I don't think I've necessarily listened to them more than I've listened to the Queens, for example.
Right.
It's just the way it shakes out.
Or then there's one I was looking up that I wish it had a little bit more. I've never listened to them. I didn't know it was a band until I looked it up. But have you heard of Eyes Adrift?
I've never heard of Eyes Adrift, Ethan.
It's Chris Novoselic's side project with Kirk, ex-member from the Meat Puppets, Kirkwood, and then the drummer from Sublime, Bud Goff, and
see, this is what we're talking about. It's impossible.
Sublime, Meat Puppets, and Chris Novoselic in a band.
Like, how did I not think of that? How did I not know that had happened? It's just, it's completely ridiculous in the best way possible, because I think it's awesome that all of these people collaborated, but it's impossible for me to know. I'm just not going to know these. I mean, they're like
Class of '99.
Class of '99. That's another one. Was that like Lane and Tom Morello or something?
Yeah, Lane, Tom Morello, and then a few people from Porno for Pyros and Jane's Addiction. And which Porno for Pyros and Jane's Addiction, like, that's both Perry Farrell's bands.
Exactly. So see, and there's another area that I haven't done my due diligence in. So I'm going to listen to Porno for Pyros or Jane's Addiction before I listen to the Class of '99.
Yeah. Do you know Hater, the band Hater, which is drummer Matt Cameron and Ben Shepherd, who like played along, a couple other people, but like it's the rhythm section for Soundgarden making a band.
And there's another one, Ethan. I forget the name of them, but I believe Kim Thile and Chris Novoselic got together and did something for they did one show, and it was like a punk band.
I think I did see that.
I don't remember their name. I was looking at it earlier, but this is exactly the type of thing we're talking about, where you could just be spitballing and just playing Seattle musician bingo, and you could put together a random roster, and chances are they've shared a stage together. They've played.
Right. Yeah, it's like
Mike
when we did that.
Watt has played with Eddie Vedder and Dave Grohl. Like, what does that count?
Yeah, I think I found it. Was it Truly, the band Truly? It was Hero.
Could have been
Hero and Kim. Let's see, I don't know. And then was it Mark Pickler? I don't know, dude. There's
Mark Pickerel. Yeah, he was Pickerel. The original. He was an early
drummer.
member of the Trees. Yeah.
Dude, I don't know,
prior
man.
to Barrett Martin.
That's the thing. There's so many. And it's funny. We did that like build your own set list, or we can build your own band. And if we did build your own band, there's probably a real band out there.
You just unknowingly
Alice Mudgarden.
reconstituted a supergroup. Okay, we need to talk about Alice Mudgarden.
And right turn.
That was right turn off of the Sap EP. That is one of the greatest pieces of music. Yeah,
that's a good one.
That gets the seal of approval.
We appreciate that one time.
I mean, you get Alice, then you get Mark Arm and Chris Cornell. The last 45 seconds.
That is grunge.
That's grunge.
You got Mark Arm, so you're good. But then you add in those two. I mean, that's
send that one out for the aliens to listen to when there's a space capsule out there somewhere, Ethan. It's got a gold-plated record on it with a bunch of informational shit about Earth. They sent that out there in the 70s, but if they sent that out now, we would have to get Right Turn on there. The last 45 seconds of that thing it's like a crash course in all things that are good about Seattle grunge music. Yeah, we like Alice Mudgarden. We also like the Gutter Twins with Greg Dooley and Mark Lanigan, or at least I like the Gutter Twins.
I do too. I've never listened
Greg
to
of
them,
the Afghan Wigs and Mark of all of the things that he did. But I mean, there's just so many in this arena. And then it's kind of funny because you follow this wormhole and you start to think about other bands that have nothing to do with the genre that were also supergroups and did some really good things. So Ethan, do you have any favorites outside of the realm, outside of the genre that come to mind of supergroups or notable collaborations?
So we're talking collaborations as far as like a full album or like
could be whatever you want.
Yeah. See, it's like now I feel like they're called collaborations and not necessarily supergroups because I'm thinking like Courtney Barnett and Kurt Vile have an album together and like they're two separate artists.
Album, you're right.
It's a collaborative album. It's not really like or better BOCC, Better Oblivion Communities Center, and with Phoebe and Conor Oberst.
Yeah,
and that's one of my favorite albums. That's like my favorite Phoebe. That's like, I mean, I like all of her original stuff too, but like that album is so complete for me and just such a good. I think it's my favorite piece of work that I think either of those people have done, and it's together.
Have you listened to much of Connor's Bright Eyes stuff? Or
yeah. I do like it. But yeah, I have you?
Yeah, I have not as much as I've listened to the Phoebe side of the world, but you make an interesting point. Like I've never really heard any of these referred to as supergroups. It kind of seems like the term supergroup is reserved, and I don't think rightfully so, but it seems like it's reserved for rock musicians and rock men. It seems like it's just all. Like you don't hear about this. The only one that I've ever heard referred to as a supergroup would be the Mighty Boy Genius with Julian Baker, Lucy Dacus, and Phoebe Bridgers. I've seen some press where they've been billed as a supergroup in reviews and stuff. And I mean they are super and they are a group, so that gets. Do
they have? I mean, because they all have bodies of work on their own, and then they come together. And do they just have one album, or do they have?
They just have one EP that they released in 2018. Yeah. They did a super short tour.
So it just fits right in with Mad Season and Temple of the Dog.
It's just the one-off. We did this, and then
maybe they'll keep going and move into the realms of Audio Slave, where they have three or four albums.
I hope they do. I mean, they're all really young and. Yeah, we here at Grunge Bible really like all of those musicians, and I haven't seen Lucy Dacus yet. I have tickets to her show. It was canceled a couple of weeks ago. I think she's coming through in July, so I'll check the last one off the list. But I've seen Phoebe and Julian live, and they're really really incredible.
Yeah, and I think like we were talking about, it's sort of collaborations and features. You know, people collab and feature all the time, and they get them to come in on one. But as far as like lasting, I don't know if it's because maybe people don't want to commit to, I don't know, or they want, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, who knows? It's interesting because another one that comes to mind for me is I don't think they ever did anything in the studio together, but they toured extensively and they released a live album as a kind of result of that tour. But Jimmy Page toured with the Black Crowes in the late 90s, and they had released a live album. It was really, really good.
I got a great one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I finished yours. I just thought of one because
I want to hear yours. Fuck my story.
The Dead and Company.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The Dead Company is literally like probably the biggest super group because it's combining the Grateful Dead and John Mayer.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's probably some other members in there that are from other groups that I don't know because there's a ton of them. But
yeah, they've all been in everything.
But people, I mean, that's very obviously very highly regarded because you got two massive fan bases.
Yeah,
coming together.
Yeah, and there've been a lot of projects over the past that just as a fan of music history, not necessarily a huge fan of these bands or their outfits beforehand, you look back and you're like, wow, that was really cool that came together. And I think about the Traveling Wilburys, for example.
Yep.
I mean, it was Petty, Dylan, Roy Orbison, and George Harrison.
Can't forget him.
I mean, that like the fact as a music fan who wasn't alive when they were an outfit together, you hear about all of these people, then you find out that they created music together. You're like, wow, that's really cool. The same thing goes for the Highwaymen in country music when you had Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Chris Christopherson. It's just really cool to be able to look back like, wait, that happened, or those people got together and made music. It's like a fantasy draft where you're just putting together an all-star team, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. But
don't forget you got Ed Vedder and the Earthlings, which is basically the Chili Pepper. You got Chad Smith and Josh Klinghoffer, and then Ed Vedder and who's the other one? Andrew Watt. From Jane's Addiction or whatever. And
was Alan Johannes with them for that tour, or
I think,
or Glenn Hansford? So. I can't remember. I mean, that was so recent too, but I didn't get a chance to see the Earthlings live, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I love this kind of stuff. I mean, if it were up to me, I wish people would do more of this and would do it all the time.
It is a lot of fun, like to see. Like, I think going to groups and seeing music history come together is great. But I do think it was similar, like talking javelin. You'll understand this reference, but like there was a really high level javelin thrower in Taro Pitkamaki, and he changed his coach, and it was Jan Zelezny, the world record holder. And they're like, oh, Taro's going to throw 100 meters, but it didn't work out because they're two top of the line best throwers of all time, and just because they're the best doesn't mean they can work together. So I think that, when that can happen, like Queens of the Stone Age and Velvet Revolver, just because each member is supremely good, like I think that, sometimes the product doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, well, and the dynamics are definitely different too. And there's another anecdote that speaks to this too.
When you're so used to something for so long.
Exactly. And just I think when you enter into a room with somebody and you have a lot of respect for them and you don't want to overstep and you want to be super respectful, and then nothing really ends up getting done. So right now I'm rereading Mark Lanigan's memoir, Sing Backwards and Weep. And I think it was in either 90 or 91, Mark and Kurt Cobain had planned and went into the studio to record a Lead Belly blues cover album. And nothing ever came of it because, according to Mark's account in the book, they were just so deferential of each other because Kurt had admired Mark's music for years, and Mark thought Kurt was just the biggest genius in the zip code. And nothing really got done because nobody really wanted to take charge because they didn't want that to be viewed as an affront to the other person's creative abilities or whatever. And I think that's definitely something that you risk too. And even in terms of sport too, because when you have so much respect for somebody, you don't want to be like, hey, no, like that's not good, we should do this, or hey, have you ever considered this? And you don't want to pirate their ideas too, because you have so much respect for them. So I mean, for these things to work, it's really impressive.
Just being so far into your career is tough to make changes. Like it's not an easy thing for people in general, but just older in the career when you're set. So it's difficult.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But I mean, as far as the grunge genre is concerned, I think we've probably seen our last supergroup formations. I don't know that there'll be more coming down the chute here, but
you never know, though. You never know.
Just as a general music fan, there seems to be a lot of that kind of communal aspect in indie music right now, and a lot of different subsects of indie music, which I know you and I are big fans of. So I think it's really cool when people decide to get together and create stuff and collab. I love that stuff. I think it's super cool.
All right. So next one thing before we go to our song of the week, and then we'll wrap this up. I'm gonna give you 3 bands that they didn't collab, and there's not a supergroup, but they just changed their name and they have, a side project, because, the thing I was saying about like side projects, supergroups, just covers that people play, and you could do. I mean, shoot, if we tried to do an episode of like the best covers, that would be impossible because
oh my gosh, that's
could
impossible.
Could you imagine the stuff that we would miss? And
we would have to record for 12 hours and we'd still miss most of them.
So I'll give you the name of the band, and then you have to say what their original band is, basically,
Okay.
And the first one's gonna be really easy because you said it to me and I actually forgot about it. But the first band would be Ugly Casanova.
Yeah, that's the Modest Mouse side project, which we all around these parts we love and adore.
And so that's an example of something where we've kind of went through you go through the discography of Modest Mouse, and you realize that they have a side project, and you're like music, and you're like,
gem.
Hell yeah,
it's great, it's awesome. I love when that happens.
Okay, the next band is, let's see if you can get this one. This is like early, this is like high school bands, alt rock. Okay, Boxcar Racer. Do you know who Boxcar Racer is originally?
As soon as you say it, I am going to know it, but I don't know it right now, so I need you to say it.
Blink 182.
Yes. Yep, you're right. Oh, man.
Yep. So that's another one. I really liked them growing up. I remember finding out Boxcar Racer, and it was like all this, some more Tom DeLonge and whatnot. And Tom DeLonge has Angels and Airwaves, which is really good.
I was going to mention Angels and Airwaves, yeah.
The first album, The War, is really good. I love that. It's like, I think it's some great writing by him, some very atmospheric stuff, some alien stuff, Okay, this is the one I was laughing about earlier. So let's see if you know this one. This is a good one. Foxborough Hot Tub.
Foxborough Hot Tub? Like Foxborough, Massachusetts? That's close to me. That's like...
Foxborough Hot Tub. Who is the original band?
That sounds like a made-up band name, so I'm gonna call your bluff, Ethan. You're lying.
Oh, calling my bluff. They were fronted by Reverend Stickrin Twitch and Frosco Lee, which are also stage names because...
You're definitely making this up.
No, I'm not.
Who are they?
This is Green Day.
No shit.
Yep, Reverend Stickrin Twitch is Billy Joe's stage name. And there was a quote, and I was reading about it, I was kind of confused. I remember hearing this, so they would just, bill themselves and change their names, so then people would be surprised when they get there and it was Green Day. Mm-hmm. And I was laughing earlier because there was a quote by Billy that says, "The only similarity between Foxborough Hot Tub and Green Day is that we're the same band."
I love that. That's like
the only similarity is that we're the same.
That's like a quote. My high school health teacher used to say this all the time, and he used to say, he's like, you and I are exactly the same, except we're entirely different. That's like everything is different except for the fact that it's the same band.
That we're not the same person.
Yeah, I love that a lot. Yeah, no, and this exercise kind of got me to think of. There's a couple other side projects, not necessarily supergroups, that come to mind, but you had mentioned the Black Keys earlier, and Dan Auerbach created the Arcs, and then Patrick Carney did Drummer, which is a Song of the Week alum with Mature Fantasy, I believe.
Mature Fantasy, that's it, yeah, Drummer.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I think when you
all
talk
drummers from bands,
that fires me up. And I think when you talk about the Black Keys, you have to talk about the White Stripes too, and the Rat Contours, which is a Jack White thing.
It's just just bands and projects.
There's a lot of limbs on this tree that we can climb onto.
It's really cool, actually. There's got to be some Reddit. Cool. There's got to be some Reddit stream of bands and where they came from and the members. And
I'm just picturing the It's Always Sunny meme with like the crime board right there. Yeah, exactly.
Pepe Silve.
Yeah, that's what's going on in my head. Like, there's no possible way these could be connected, but they usually are.
And then boom, Josh Homey's in all of them. And
he's in all of them, and he ruins all of them for us. Well, Ethan, I think it's safe to say he will not be a future guest of the podcast. I don't think he'll come on at this point, which...
We'll leave him in the waiting room, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Song of the Week. Let's wrap this episode 53 up. I'll go first.
All right.
I'll go first this time because I have one. It's actually become, it's one of those things where obviously we have our different playlists, but we have our weightlifting playlist that me and you talk about. And you sent me a really good one earlier this week. I mean, one that's probably on the list, but the Slaves and Bulldozers live from Where's that? Wim?
It's like the Paramount or something.
Paramount?
I don't know. Is that the 15-minute version one, like the super long one where Chris comes in, he's like, "This is your last.
This is your last." Yes, that's so good.
I loved that. I listened to that yesterday.
Yeah, I did too. So it's not that, but so yeah, it's not that. But the list has been not the same over the years, but it's hard to. But I've added one recently because it's an older song that I really liked, but I just had never really listened to it while lifting, and then I realized. But I'm gonna put on "Hail to the King" by Avenged Sevenfold, and this song is so badass, and it's just like, I mean, I don't know. Have you listened to Avenged Sevenfold all that much? They're kind of heavier.
I have a little bit. I went into like a quarter phase once where I was kind of seeing what they were about back in the day.
And they are quite a unique band. They've lost some of their members and Sinister, and they have such a dark. They have some crazy music. Like it gets really like, it's almost like it's really spooky at times, and they got this like, it's super like long and it's really weird. But then they have some really heavy stuff, and they're a pretty interesting band. I want to listen to. I want to listen to them more. Drew, our producer, he's probably gonna call me stupid because he loves them and he can talk about them a lot more than I can because he was a huge fan of them. We would jam them and whatnot. So yeah, I'm going "Hail to the King." That's a great song, and it's been helping me get through my squat workouts recently.
Nice, I like that.
All right, you're up.
All right, well, my song of the week is actually hot off the press. Ethan, we're recording this on Friday, March 25th, and this album was just released today, Friday, March 25th, and that is the new album from the band Camp Cope. They're from Australia. They're a 3-piece from Australia. I forget. Somebody suggested them to me like 2 or 3 years ago, and I've fallen in love with their music. And they just released an album today called "Running with the Hurricane," and I am fortunate to have a vinyl copy of it along with a T-shirt and I think a keychain in one of those little bundles on its way to me as we speak. So I'll be excited to break that one out and spin it sometime. But my song of the week comes from that. It's not. I think they released 3 or 4 singles from it before the album dropped. But I listened to it a couple times today, front to back. And there's a song on there. It's super slow, but it's called "The Screaming Planet" by Camp Cope. I'll lock that in as my song of the week. Not necessarily for this song specifically, but just as a general recommendation that you listen to this album. They're a 3-piece, and their bassist is really, really, really impressive with the licks that she's able to create. And she almost plays the bass like she's soloing on a 6-string guitar, which I really dig. I think that's super cool and creative, and just a lot of like really shimmery chords, and the drummer's great too, and the vocals are fantastic. So that's my song of the week, right from the new release pile. Yeah,
that's great. I'm not surprised when you said you listened to it a few times through today. Have you actually listened to it multiple times through today? It's only like 10 o'clock.
I couldn't sleep. I woke up at 5. Today was one of those days I was able to sleep in a little bit past my normal 5:30. So naturally I woke up before my normal. Before normal. Yeah, my body hates me. So this is what we're doing now. So yeah, I listened to it. It's a short album. I think it's less than 40 minutes. So I think I listened to it 3 times.
Nice.
I might do it again too.
Why not? I'm definitely gonna do it now that I know it's out. I've enjoyed getting into them and stuff and seeing some of the live.
Yeah, they're on my list.
Bassist kind of pick.
Yeah, she can rip. They're on my list that they haven't toured anywhere since before COVID, and I don't think they've been to the United States since like 2018 or something. So
yeah,
if they're coming, I'm going. I'm going to see them.
If you're out there listening, we'd love to have you on the pod. How about that?
Exactly. Yeah, I've shared them before. They've commented and liked and whatnot. So, I mean, that's a natural progression. I mean, they're doing press with like NPR, CBS, Rolling Stone, Grunge Bible Podcast will probably be next. So
yeah. All right, guys, that wraps up the 53rd episode.
That'll do it.
It's going to come out on Monday, and we are recording interviews. We're banking a few, so interviews are coming. We have some awesome people coming on and some fun interviews, so hang tight. We're going to do some great stuff. Become a patron on Patreon because you can win some free stuff. This is your last chance. And keep listening, keep supporting. leave us a review, yada, yada, yada. You guys rock.
Yeah, you guys know all that stuff.
We roll. You guys rock, we roll. And yeah. Anything, Chris?
No, that's pretty much the way it goes. Thank you for the last hour, give or take, of your time. Whenever you may be listening, we really appreciate you giving some of your time, which is undoubtedly more valuable than ours. And yeah, we're just really appreciative that you're continuing to listen to this show and support us. So thanks. We love you guys.
All right. Have a great week, because it's on Monday. Have a great week, and we'll see you guys next week. Rock and roll.
Hell yeah.